Avatar 2 is pretty good. Not being a huge fan of the first, I went into this with low expectations story-wise because I knew visually, at least, it would deliver. But I was pleasantly surprised on how much I enjoyed it. You really don't feel the length at all. Pause. But the last movies, I think I really, the last long movies I think I watched were like Wakanda Forever and The Batman. I love The Batman, but you like really feel the runtime in that. And Wakanda was Forever was okay, but you also do feel the runtime in that too. First, I'll start off with no spoilers, and then I'll dive into, get it, dive. Then I'll dive into what I found interesting and the few problems I had with the movie. But let's get into it. Like I said, visually, this movie's amazing just like the first, but even more so because the underwater stuff. The underwater stuff is like beautiful and creative. I really love the underwater ecosystem they created, and everything is really cool to look at. One thing I would say is a very minor problem, like very minor, is we see a good look at the water animals, but we don't see a lot of the predators of the sea, and that would have been interesting. The CGI for the water parts was amazing, but I feel like most of the CGI budget and attention went to the water sections because some of the CGI feels a little video gamey, like specifically like some of the military vehicles, not all of them, but some. But overall, this movie is great CGI wise. The story aspect of this movie is where my expectations were pretty low, but this movie surprisingly delivers. Not so much plot wise because it's pretty straightforward, but the relationships and dynamics between the characters create a lot of good tension and really just elevate the plot just from okay to good. Jake's family dynamic was pretty good, and I really enjoyed them all interacting with each other, but some stuff does feel a little forced just to get the plot going. There was some pretty big plot elements introduced pretty late in the movie just for setup for the next movie, but I'll get to that more in spoilers. This movie does a pretty good job overall catching you up with the events of the first movie, so it's really not required to see the previous one, but if you did, it does reward you because there's a lot of callbacks to it. The performances were great. There was just a couple that I wasn't entirely sold on, but I'll get to those in spoilers. The action is pretty damn good in this. I enjoyed a lot of the military tech. Seeing the Avatar people use their big ass spears and arrows to decimate the humans is always cool to see. The action created a lot of good tension, and it felt like anyone could die in most cases. I really enjoyed the antagonist in this. He was just really fun to watch and had some good emotional moments, which I appreciated. All in all, I really enjoyed this movie. It passed my expectations because I really wasn't a fan of the first, but it delivers in like all the departments that I have on my checklist. I mean, it's not a real checklist, but things I look for. It delivered in good visuals, good action, good like dynamics between the characters, and that created a lot of tension. It did its job in making me look forward for the third movie that we know is coming. But I was gonna rate this an 8, but I found myself really saying like, oh, this doesn't get wrapped up and we'll see it in the third movie. So I'm really at like a 7.5. I could be at an 8 if I see it again, but I'm really at like a 7.5 right now. But it was still pretty good. But now let's get into some spoilers. I'll expand upon the things I had problems with, and then I'll just go over stuff I found cool and interesting. So they introduced this gold liquid that they extract from the whales that literally stops human aging, and they deadass don't bring it up again. It's clearly just set up for the third movie and just like motivation for the antagonist. They do this again with Kiri's connection to her mom and don't really expand upon it, and it's just clearly set up for the third movie. Also, the mom, like Jake's wife, she attempts to kill Spider, and it doesn't get brought up again. And it's just weird because like the rest of the family looks at him as like an extension of them. And I thought Jake would just bring that up to her, like, what the hell was that all about? Or at the very least, one of the kids. But maybe that's just going to be a plot line in the third movie. And like, this is what I mean. Like, a lot of stuff doesn't get addressed or just doesn't get wrapped up. I really like the final battle, but the reason all the kids got involved was kind of contrived. There was literally no reason for them all to follow the youngest son to the whale thing. I get the older brother, but the adopted sister and the younger sister, like, why are they following them? Like I said, I really like the end battle, but I feel like the reason everyone was on the battlefield was like kind of weak. Performances that didn't really land for me were Spider's and Kiri's, but Spider just felt like very wooden, and I felt like he warmed up to the Marines a little too much and was like joking with them when I know that's his dad, but like he has a very good reason to not like them. So I heard this before going into the movie, but then I looked it up after the fact because I was like, there's no way that's true. But Sigourney Weaver plays a little girl, and that's just very apparent. Like, her voice does not match the little girl's body at all, and some of her delivery just comes off very wooden and stiff. At the start of the movie, it's pretty hard to tell the kids apart, like not only from Jake's family, but from like the rest of the Avatar tribe. And it's not really until like they leave and go to the other tribe, the water tribe, where the Avatar people are like a lighter shade of blue, and like you really start to get familiar with their personalities, that's when you really start to be able to tell them apart. But at least for me, I just like had a tough time at the start just like figuring out who was who. That's pretty much all my problems I had with the movie, but now let's just get into some stuff that I found cool and interesting. I really like how the water Avatar people looked like mutated differently from the forest Avatar people. They have like these dorsal like fin extensions on their arms, and their tails are a lot thicker for swimming. And it was just cool seeing that like genetic, like I guess, evolution. That's because they live close to the water. I like how they justify us hearing their language in English. At the start, Jake says he got so used to the language that like it just eventually became like English to him. And as soon as he says that, it switches from their native language to English. But it doesn't really explain why we hear English when he's not around. But I guess it's really just suspension of disbelief. It's really not a big deal. Like I said up top, I really like the tech in this, especially the military tech. They have like this mech suit that's like an extension of them. Like they'll punch with their arm and like a longer arm will like extend out. And it was just cool to see that that was like an improvement of like the bulkier mechs from the first movie. They also had this cool crab mech that was just cool to I don't know why I did that, but they had this cool crab mech that was just cool to see. It was just fun to watch it in motion and just the way it moved. And they had these little spider bots that helped them build faster. I just like all that sci-fi tech and stuff. It was just cool to watch. It was great seeing Jake use his military combat and strategies mixed with like the Avatar animals, and then mixed with their like tribal arrows and spears. It was just cool seeing that mixture to come together. And on the other hand, it was cool seeing the military do the same thing and have them like militarize their mounts and stuff. And it's just cool seeing them just fly around on those dragon things and just shoot at each other with machine guns. I really enjoyed the part where Jake and I forget his name, but it's just like the head bad guy, they were like both trying to tame their mounts at the same time. It was just fun seeing that parallel. This movie makes you love to hate the colonizers. My theater literally clapped when the Australian hunter guy got his arm cut off. We all know he's coming back with a robot arm in the third movie. Like, they didn't show him die, they just showed his arm getting cut off, so we know he's coming back. The kids say bro a lot. I haven't seen the first movie in a while, but my friend, he literally watched the first movie before he went to go see this one. So I asked him, does Jake say that? Just thinking like, do they pick that up from him or something? And he says no, so I really don't know what that's all about. Maybe it was just James Cameron's way of just trying to stay hip and cool. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Overall, I really liked the movie. It was a good experience. So if you haven't seen it and you made it this far in this video, still go watch it. It has really good visuals and cinematography and good like framing of shots and good action. So it's really good from that standpoint. The story could, it's serviceable. But what really carries it is the relationships and dynamics between the characters. It creates a lot of good tension and stuff. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Next video is probably a Mob Psycho Season 3 review. So yeah.